Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Campfire Bandy. I'm your host, Grayson Black, and yes, I do have these extremely, some might say swanky, some might say the Joe Bidens, if you will, these very nice aviator sunglasses on. If you're not watching on YouTube, if you're listening on one of the many podcast networks, go ahead and drop us a subscribe on YouTube and check us out there where you can see live footage of not only myself, who is indeed not the important person, but also our guest this week that I'm very excited about and just happens to be the reason why I had to step up my fashion game this week. The one, the only Cole Duncan. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the notorious CHD is in the house. It was good to sit down with a friend, and we talked about everything, the fun stuff from Dungeons and Dragons to Formula One to Cole's impeccable fashion sense. But we also got deep because the things that have driven Cole's life and the things that have changed him as a person, as it often happens, have been pretty heavy. We talk about Cole's divorce and how that changed him and how that pushed him in a new direction. We talked about him going into the alcohol industry, which is a somewhat lighter topic, and he gives a lot of very informative information in that segment. But that completely steered his life in a new direction. And then we talk about the loss of his brother, and that brother being Brooke High. Not his blood brother, but his brother in that this person was his best friend from day one. And very much his ride or die. And Cole really takes a step out in the open to get vulnerable about what happened. If you're triggered by discussions of suicide, we don't get too into the details, but I do want to give everybody that courtesy. But Cole talks about how that affected him and how it changed him and how he moved forward with it, and how it led him to counseling. So I just want to say a huge thanks to Cole. This was such a special interview. This one ran a little bit long, but we talked about some absolutely great topics. You guys are going to love Cole. He's so charismatic. Enjoy the show. Hello everyone and welcome back to Campfire Bandy. I'm extremely excited on this 5th episode, now coming out on Wednesday mornings, to have Cole Duncan, aka the notorious CHD.
Hey.
CHD. He prefers the pronouns was, were.
Yep.
He's a salesman. He is an enthusiast of many things.
Yep.
And according to him, he's also, and let me quote him here, a self-depreciating asshole that I chose to be friends with.
Yeah, that
does that all sound accurate, Cole? Is
that sounds pretty accurate, man. Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to misquote you.
No. You got me right on. That form was very helpful.
Yeah. I think that the form does a good job of saying, okay, Grayson's ADHD mind can split off into 5 different directions at any time. So just this little bit of level of structure really brings things back home.
I'm the exact same way. I get what David was talking about on his episode where he's like, I barely remember what I put on that form.
So and he said at the end of the episode, he was like, I've already forgotten everything we talked about. So whatever he said, that's great. That's awesome. And I mean, I feel that.
I co-sign it. Yep.
Because like when I'm a little bit nervous, like especially when I meet people for the first time, they're like, "Oh, hey, I'm Jackie," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm Grayson." I walk away and I'm like,
who the fuck was that person?
Who did I meet? Like, I don't know your name. And I have to apologize. Like, I'm so sorry, but can you just tell me your name? Like, just say it 3 times really fast so that it, like, really gets in there.
I'm going to out myself. I don't know if any of, like, my accounts or, like, future accounts will, like, watch this.
It'll be, like, 5 years before anybody like that ever sees.
But, like...
For the logarithm.
I guarantee on my phone right now, I have got probably 4 or 5 people that I have to see weekly, and they have to trust me to, like, take their money, and I have no idea what their name is. I know they've told it to me. I know they've given me business cards. I know that they have, talked to me about, making their business bigger or expanding in some way. And I'm like, yeah, dude, like, for sure. Like, I'm all about that. Like, I got you. And I get back home and I'm like, okay, I know I need to key this and key that and key that. What was their fucking name? What was their name? Like, it's so embarrassing, especially when they text me and they've never texted me before. So I just have a phone number and it's like, hey man, can I get like 2 cases of Stiegel? I'm like, absolutely, for sure I can get you some Stiegel. Can you remind me who this is? I'm terrible about putting names in my phone. And I was like, and they're like, it's, the guy that you've been dealing with for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And I'm like, right, you.
You just gotta like jump on Google Forms real quick and make a new form that just the first thing that asks is your name, and they're like, it's like, hey man, I know this asks for your name. It's protocol, it's just standard procedure.
This is just standard.
I know who you are, but we just we gotta get your name and probably your address and remind me of your phone number because we gotta make connections.
It's rough. It's rough. I just, for the most antisocial person out there, it's sad that like I have a job where I am forced to know so many people.
But here's the thing: when you get in those situations and you already have a charisma modifier that's at least a +5, maybe like a +6.
I don't know about it, man. You're sweet. You're kind. I don't know if I've got a +5 or a +6. I might have like a +3.
You've got a pretty high charisma modifier. Now, that's not to say you're always going to roll the die, and it's always going to land above a 12 or 10 or 12 or whatever.
It's a lot. It's a lot of 2s, a lot of 3s, a lot of 1s.
Yeah. Well, I think that
I'll hit it big, but
we're kind of similar in the way that we're like an extroverted introvert. Like, we both, I think, love being around people and going out and going to parties and stuff, and we can show up and show out. You're better at showing out than me because you've got your fashion, your style, you've got all that shit down, and I know you're proud of it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
But
I've paid way too much good money for it.
Hey, you look good. That's the goal.
I appreciate it.
Once I've done that and it gets to the end of the night or whatever, I'm ready to just come home and like not talk to anybody for
every day,
a good while.
Every day after work, especially on Tuesdays, like I'll like come home, which is funny because Tuesdays when I play D&D, like I'll come home and I'll have like 2 hours between when I have gotten off work and when I have like D&D, like everyone coming over to my place.
Yeah.
And I just like walk into my bedroom, close the door, no lights, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna sit here. I'm not going to listen to anything. I'm just going to lie here in silence for just a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely me. That's absolutely me. And recently I have been so busy that I have not like had a moment to just be like, you know what? I have nothing to do right now. There's nothing in the back of my mind. There's nothing going on. Nice. And I have been so busy that I haven't had that. And I'm just like, I gotta cancel some plans because I gotta I gotta put my head in a pillow and not think about a damn thing for a minute.
my next, I think, 4 weekends are like booked up. Like I've got like that. God. I mean, like that's not a bad thing. Like it's
exciting.
It's 4 weekends full of fun stuff that I'm really looking forward to, especially now that I got the second jab. Like, it's like hanging out with like friends I haven't seen in a minute, heading back home to like grill and go to Open Door, going to a cabin out in Pigeon Forge in St. Dolly country. We've got friends who are coming in from Knoxville to like grab brunch, and then I'm sure something else in between in that minutia. So
that's the thing is when it's good stuff, you can't complain about it.
No.
And I honestly think that like doing the podcast and editing the podcast and putting it up on YouTube and editing
it's a lot of fucking work, dude.
It's so much work.
It's like, a lot of fucking work.
Oh, these fucking Gen Z YouTubers out here need to know what a real job is. Like,
dude, it's a job.
Because it's a full-time job. And like, especially if it's one person. Like a lot of those people, Mr. Beast, PewDiePie, they hire people. Like it's a whole production team.
Dude, when I was on Metal Gear Mondays, thanks to you, by the way, we got to a point where our Patreon was paying enough for us to basically pay the like fees to be on different platforms like Spotify and Apple Music and iHeartRadio and wherever else you get podcasts from.
Yeah.
Because what a lot of people don't know is like this isn't free. Like putting it out there is not free. Like you have to pay someone. Like I forget who we were paying, but you have to pay like a service to get you onto those platforms.
Yeah, the only aspect that is free technically is YouTube. You can upload anything to YouTube, but it takes a lot more work to. I mean, if you like, a video can look like absolute dog shit. I mean, nobody wants to watch just a Zoom upload. You know, they would rather listen to that in podcast form. People don't want to watch talking heads. I mean, that's why a lot of my videos, they don't have that many views, but the podcast versions, people will listen to those because they can listen to them on 5 or 6 commutes across the week and break it up into chunks. But the podcast, like you're saying, you have to pay money for it. Like you go through something like Podbean, which is what I use, and you upload and everything, and you have to pay monthly for that, and then it distributes to all the different ones. So
I want to say that the service that we were using had something to do with like trees or like branch or something. I really don't know.
There's so many of them.
I'm too dumb to like know like. And not business savvy enough to know where that money was going. I just entrusted it to like my co-host, who were way better at that thing than I was. Yeah. But we had enough money from the Patreon that the podcast was self-sustaining. Like we had enough money to every month pay the bills for the hosting. We had enough money like put back that we could. If, like, for instance, I needed a new mic, or like if I needed a new cable,
nice.
We could dig into that fund, buy something, have it there, Amazon Prime 2 days.
Yeah.
And then what was the last thing about that? Oh yeah, we finally had enough money to not necessarily pay an editor outright.
Yeah.
But we had enough money to kind of supplement the pay for the editor, because like I did it a couple times and it's a shit ton of work, and I'm not an audio engineer. Like we paid a guy out of Nashville who really knew what he was doing, and he made the podcast a lot better. It just flowed better, but it's costly, man. It is real costly.
Yeah, well, and I do it as a hobbyist, and I really enjoy it. I could see myself in the future taking some like Adobe Premiere classes or Adobe Audition classes.
Oh, dude, I can teach you about Premiere all day long.
and we've used Premiere, so I already had that background of it, and I know more about Premiere now than I do about Audition. And because the two platforms look so much different.
Yeah, and Audition is better for just straight up like audio.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm starting to learn, like, okay, I can drop these audio files into Audition. I can make them sound better. That can be the podcast. And then I can pull that back into Premiere and put it back behind the video. And then you're working smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
But, like, if you are sending it to an audio engineer or a video editing engineer or like a videographer or whatever, they've got all that shit set up. They've got all their presets. They know exactly how they want their bins and their folders to work on this project. I mean, it's what they do, so it's just like this. Whereas you're like, okay, God damn it, I've recorded. Now I guess I'm going to sit here and take up the rest of my Saturday or Sunday to edit all this up. So I'm hoping that this podcast gets there eventually. For now, yes, I'm busy as hell, but also I enjoy it. So
yeah, it's a fun hobby, man. It's a really fun hobby just to kind of like get that creative like outlet out there.
That's it. That really is exactly what it is. I mean, I'm an AmeriCorps member, and I go to work Monday through Friday like 9 to 5. I have like a 20-minute commute both ways.
Yeah.
So I mean that takes up most of my weekday. But doing this on the side has kind of given me a creative outlet that I didn't really realize that I needed until I started doing it. And I was like, wow, this is like thinking about this, working on this, trying to make it better, thinking about where I could take it is just putting me in a better mood overall. Like I would go to work and be like, oh yeah, I can do this because I know that I have this on the side. Like it just improved my mood.
Yeah.
I think I had been like missing that in my life for a long time and not really acknowledging that I needed it, I guess,
Yeah.
because I mean, I've said this a lot. I think a lot of the dreams that I had as a younger dude of wanting to like be an actor or be a writer or whatever, it was kind of like nobody ever said you can't fucking do that. Like that's stupid. But,
No, but
there was
it
this
does seem
idea
like an
of that's
unattainable
unrealistic.
goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And, having kind of pulled away from that and made the decision to come out here and took those risks,
Yeah.
it's not to say that everybody has to come to California to do that. I think that was a personal thing for me of pulling myself away.
You did take a big risk. You did take a huge risk. You took a big jump. I mean, that's a huge leap. I mean, like I thought like my leap from our hometown to an hour away was massive, but you were like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna like cross 3 time zones and figure it out. Like I've said this about you, and I've said it to you multiple times. Like I'm always been super proud of you for just like saying fuck it and just making that
Thanks,
jump. I think
baby.
you're happier for it, dude.
Yeah, and I really am. And, I want people to also achieve their goals, but I want them to realize that, you may not have to do it like this. I think that me doing this was a result of, for so many years, just pushing that further and further down and saying, nope, you're always going to be in Athens. You're going to have to follow your career path. You might as well keep this full-time job.
What a miserable
Life-sucking,
existence.
trapped feeling, And so I tend to be very all or nothing, probably because of the ADHD. So once it got to that point, I was like, you know what? How about the other side of the country?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
But
well, I mean, I've always said, and there's nothing wrong with our hometown. Well, there is, but I've always said about Athens. Athens is not a place that you move to. Like you don't strive to go to Athens. Athens is the place where you wind up.
Yeah.
At least for our generation. Maybe not so much for like
maybe where you're born and you stay too.
Right. Like my dad moved to Athens from Knoxville, or I guess Nashville at the time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, because I mean he had gone to Vandy, got his PhD there, and then he was like, there was a job opening at this little old liberal arts college in Athens, Tennessee, called Tennessee Wesleyan, and it was close enough to where he was from, which was Oak Ridge. And so it's like, okay, he can still see, his folks. Then my mom's from Inglewood, so I don't have to tell you that Inglewood's BFE.
Yeah.
So I mean, Athens was like a place of opportunity for both of them. Me being born and raised in Athens, getting out was just another place of opportunity for me. I ended up in Chattanooga. You ended up in fucking California. All right. But it's just all about like, I guess, just taking that chance for those opportunities. I mean, my opportunities brought me to where I am. Your opportunities brought you to where you are. Yeah.
Well, and it's so crazy how different those 4 people that you just mentioned, like what the opportunity looked like for them, your dad was at Vandy in Nashville and he saw opportunity in Athens because there was a career opportunity. Really?
He hated Nashville. Oh, fuck yeah. My dad went to Vandy for grad school, right? For like PhD. Like he had already got his master's from UTK. He'd already got his bachelor's from UTK. My dad's like college like Knoxville boy through and through.
So he's from Knoxville.
Yeah, my dad's from originally is from East Knoxville, from Oliver Springs, Oak Ridge area, and then went to school at UTK for both his bachelor's and master's, which back then very impressive. It's still impressive if you go to UTK or if you're a UTK alumni. It is very impressive. My dad went there in like the 50s and 60s.
I was gonna say what year roundabout, so probably 50s or 60s, whatever.
About to say probably the 60s if I'm being real with myself. Yeah, probably say early 60s when my dad went to UTK.
Wow.
And then he went full ride there, and then he went to Vandy on full ride as well. Like my dad was brilliant. He still is brilliant.
Yeah.
But back then, I assume it's still somewhat this way in Nashville. Vanderbilt hates UTK. UTK hates Vanderbilt, and they hate each other. Knoxville and Nashville hate each other. That's just common fact.
Yeah.
And so like my dad was just like ostracized. He's dealing with a bunch of these like rich assholes who like went to Vandy because they're like legacy or their parents could pay Vanderbilt's costs. My dad went because he was really fucking smart. But yeah, he hated it. He hated them, like in Nashville. And so, like, getting to come back to God's country, East Tennessee, I mean, it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, I almost forget, not almost, I do forget a lot, oftentimes, that Vanderbilt is in Tennessee. Like
middle Tennessee.
You hear about Vanderbilt a lot, but when people are talking about it, they're just saying Vanderbilt. They're not really acknowledging that it's in Tennessee. It's almost like this separate entity that kind of exists outside of it. It's like we can talk about Vandy and not have to mention Tennessee, whatever.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing with Duke.
Yeah, really it is. I mean, it's these like, Ivy League or really high-level schools, people talk about them.
Where do you think Duke is? Oh, I don't know, Connecticut? No, it's in North Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good old North Kakalaki.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like old Ivy League schools like that in the South that are like held up on a pedestal.
Well, I mean, you got to think. I mean, like those schools were, probably, established back in like the mid to late 19th century.
Yeah,
we were still going in that westward expansion at that point. I mean, we had not gotten the United States as we know it was not that in like 1840
well, it's crazy to think.
1850 or whenever.
Vanderbilt as an institution is probably older than California is as a state. I mean, California's history goes back to what, the 1870s, 1880s. I mean, it's not that far back. With the gold rush and like just people, pioneers going out because like there's fucking nothing in the Midwest. There's nothing really there. I mean, it's cool to see. Look at all this shoreline and mountains and dope shit over here on the East Coast. And like, oh, wow, down here in the South, we got another ocean. We got a Gulf. We got like all these crazy ecosystems. Well, if it's good this far, like west, let's just keep going. And then they get to like fucking Kansas. And they're like, well, shit. It's like that meme where the guy's got his hands on his hip and he's like, they get there and they're just like looking over it.
Like, well,
God damn it.
I feel like I can grow some grain here, and that's about it.
Like let's put a pin in this, but let's see what's on the other side.
Let's just keep on going. I mean, why not, right?
We'll probably claim this land and fuck up everybody that's already here. That's for sure. But let's go ahead and see what's closer to the coast.
Absolutely. Lewis, what do you think? Oh, yeah, no, like that.
Oh, fuck, I mean, come on. We can make millions off of this. I don't want to fucking live here, that's for sure. What, you think
they got muskets? Come on, yeah, we're getting out there.
Look at him run,
Oh, we're terrible.
Yeah, we are. A little dark humor there. Very tragic. Anyways.
Absolutely.
So... Let's take a step back for a minute. Let's talk about the three things that you nerd out on, because we touched on Dungeons and Dragons, and I happen to have the form in front of me, unlike everyone else, and I know that that's one of them. But tell us three things that you nerd out on, man.
So, obviously, like you said, Dungeons and Dragons.
Appropriately.
Yep. I have become like an open, like absolutely, especially with like Drive to Survive being on Netflix. I'm a huge F1 fan.
So you're not closeted anymore? You're letting
I'm not
everybody
closeted
know?
anymore, and I'm just letting everybody know. I mean, like, how brave
Live
of me,
your
I'm a
life,
hero.
man.
I know,
Dude.
I know, absolutely. You know, give me a ribbon.
Yeah.
F1 for sure. And then I believe the last thing I said was fashion.
Appropriately.
So definitely like fashion, whatnot. And I guess as well, just cocktails, alcohol, like that kind of thing. I mean, that's my job. So, yeah.
So which one of those do you think you hold the highest standing? Which one makes up the most of who Cole Duncan is?
It depends on the day.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Like Friday through Sunday on certain weekends, it's F1. Tuesdays and then a little bit of Wednesdays. Definitely on Thursdays is D&D because that's like, or I guess part of Fridays is D&D because that's when I play and that's when my favorite podcast comes out. And then fashion is just kind of always, fashion and alcohol are always just kind of like riding it, like, hey, we're not
like
going anywhere.
Humming in the underneath those low frequencies.
Those two necessitate each other. Like, I'm like, you need me and I need you. So, yeah, I guess that's where I would put them.
Well, it's interesting that you frame it like that because it seems like you're really good at switching gears, which is something I found that I'm good at too. You know, when I'm doing this, I'm fully into this. When I'm doing D&D, I can switch into that gear. When I'm working at the animal shelter as the AmeriCorps member, I can switch over into being a professional, you know, whatever. And we kind of touched on it with you being an extroverted introvert, and you talk about like something that makes you unique is that you're a salesman / podcaster, but you have the social appetite of a hermit. Like that hard switch is something that I think we both do.
Well, I think that just comes from me being a salesman. Like I've been an alcohol salesman now for 5 years. Literally, my 3-year anniversary with my current company was yesterday.
Oh, congratulations, man!
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
Been good to you so far.
I know. I've made a career. The old joke I always tell is like everyone in high school is like, you can't make a living out of drinking beer, and I told them to hold it and watch this.
Yeah, you said, let me show you.
Let me just show you real quick. But no, it really is just like a learned thing. Like as far as like the turning stuff off and turning stuff on.
Yeah.
Is as a salesman, you've got to be able to do that. You know, like I will walk into an account and just be like, "Hey, what's going on, man? Like, how are you doing today? Like, so check it out. I got some new stuff for you. I don't know if you have time, but I'd really love to show this off to you. Okay, cool. You want to try it out? Okay, well, this here is a West Coast IPA. It's brewed by X Brewery. Really awesome stuff. Mosaic hops, Simcoe, a little bit on there on the dry hop. Really fresh, really dry, really piney and resinous. It's looking about $35.83 for a case. What are we thinking? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll put you down for that. Anything else you need? Okay, that. Yeah, that. And I meant to follow back up on you on that sour. What do we think about that? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll get you a keg on that. All right, man. Well, hey, listen. If you need anything, give me a text, give me a call. I will be back next week. But if anything else happens, just let me know. All right, take it easy. God. And I just get back in my car. I'm like, all right, what do the McElroy brothers have to talk about right now?
Yes. Finding that existential escape into a podcast.
Yeah. I was like, I can just turn everything off right now.
So let's stay on your job and your career in the alcohol sales world for a minute, because that's one of the experiences that you kind of list as taking your life in a different direction. And I honestly think that there's a lot of people, and you may have been one of them in the beginning, that said, how the hell do you break into that field? How do you, like you said, how do you make a living in it? You know, the perspective of the people in high school saying, well, you know, you fucking drink, what are you doing? You can't do something with that. But you can, if you have the right personality. I'm sure being a salesman, you have to approach it with a certain level of charisma. But how did you get into that field? How did that get started?
Well, truthfully, I lucked into it, and that's how you do it.
That's really reassuring for all those people with hopes and dreams.
I hate to tell you that, but honestly, that's how you do it. You luck into it, or you know someone. The alcohol industry or sales industry, wholesaler, whatever, is really, it's not inclusive. It's very exclusive. It really is if you know someone or if you're just lucky. I mean, for me, I was just lucky. When I was in college, my buddy Garrick, who was like he was a teammate, and he was a history major as well. He's a really good friend, love him to death. Told me about this new liquor store that I had not known about in Etowah, Tennessee, right up the road from us, which was Muddy Waters. I'd been going to the other liquor store to buy, like beer or wine or spirits right down the road from them, which was I think the first Harry's that we had in this area. And he showed me this place. I was like, oh wow, this place is nice. I can get growlers. And Garrick's kind of the guy that turned me on to craft beer. And so I started to have a rapport with the staff that I was seeing there, which is a normal thing if you become kind of like a regular customer at certain stores. It's like, oh hey, so and so, oh, I know you like this. Well, we just got this new thing in. Do you like this? But I got in basically well with the guy, I think you know him, that we both know, I hope, Dumplin'. Big dude, big old beard, bald ass head, piece of shit. I know if you're watching this. But one day I knew that they were building a new store in our hometown. And so I was like, hey man, how's the store coming along? And he's like, oh, it's going well, da 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 da. And he knew me as a guy that knew a lot about, or a decent amount about craft beer and wine. And so I just said, well, hey man, if you're looking for anyone to work it, I'd love to have a chance. I'd love to get an application. He's like, actually, yeah, we are looking for people to work it. Here, fill this out real quick. I'll co-sign you, basically. And I was like, okay, bet. So took the application home, filled it out, came back the next day, handed it off. Within a week, I had an interview with a store, with Candy Beck, love you to death, and Tanya. You can go fuck yourself. I think you might be muted, Gray.
I am, just so that cool. My background noise, but people couldn't hear my beautiful laughs. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, you're fine. I mean, I couldn't hear you.
I am interacting. Cole is a funny guy. Don't worry.
But no, I got the interview with them. They liked me enough, and then they hired me up to work that store. And I was just a standard associate, just stocking shelves, ringing out customers, putting the truck up. But I worked for Muddy Waters for both stores for 2.5 years.
So were you I know because to set this up a little bit more, we went to college together. We knew each other in high school. weren't really friends. I wouldn't call us.
We knew each other.
We knew of each other. Yeah.
Because you hated me, and I was
we
like,
hated each other. Yeah,
that dude hates the shit out of me because Jug did something fucking annoying at Casey Idle's house, and I said something off color "fucking little brothers," right? And you were like, "That's my little fucking brother. I'll fucking kill you." I was like, "Whoa, this dude's intense."
Yeah, it was something. It was something to that degree.
In college, yeah.
Yeah, well, I was a little headstrong back in that day.
I mean, I was a dickhead too. I still am.
Yeah. Not now, but back then, I think that there was that perceived thing, at least from me, not knowing you. Mm-hmm. And when you said whatever you said about Walker, I was like, oh, fucking come on.
I'm going to buck up on this motherfucker real quick.
But what's funny is I think that we both got into your dad's class years later at Tennessee Wesleyan in your dad's history class, and we're sitting beside each other. You were the only one there I knew. Yeah. And eventually we were just like...
It was.
I think I said,
Hammond.
"How's it going, man?" or something like that. Yeah, and you knew Judge. I didn't know Judge. So I was like, I knew Judge.
I barely knew Judge.
Yeah, so I was like, I don't know anybody in this class, but I need somebody to study with or something. Yeah. So we started talking, and from there we kind of became really good friends because studying for your dad's class was no joke, and it would bring even mortal enemies together.
Yes.
So, anyways, the point is that we were hanging out at Pope Street. We were drinking. We were having a good time. You turned me into an alcoholic. No, I'm just kidding. But the question I'm getting to is you were drinking before then, you knew your beers, but when you started working at Muddy Waters, is that what kind of made you what I would think of as a hobbyist or almost now an expert, obviously?
Yeah. I mean, working at Muddy Waters, I was blessed enough to work under like a boss who really gave a shit, who really cared, Candy Bag. I was super blessed to work with a dude who knew a lot more than me about like craft beer. He was a home brewer himself, Christian Bartow. Everyone else in that store didn't really know a whole lot, and so I was kind of like, well, this is our profession. We sell alcohol. I should know as much about this as I can, and I really enjoy what I'm doing right now. I really enjoy what I'm selling. I really enjoy what I'm. This is literally the swankiest job ever. Like, after 7:00, no one comes in until the last like hour or so, and all I got to do is stock bottles. I'm gonna hang out and listen to music and podcasts and get paid to do whatever. But I was a hobbyist then, and then as the years progressed, it became more of a like. Okay, like I'm seeing dudes who come into the store and they sell to us. So there's another level to this. And so I started talking to them about, well, how did you get into it? And they said the same thing that I said at the top of this, which is just, someone or you looked into it. And
you're like, for me. Well, let me get to know you then.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I was like, so I got to know them. Kyle Borski, who was the rep for our store, me and him became good friends or not good friends, but, very well acquainted at the time because both stores, no one knew about beer and I was the only one. So he would call me to get Muddy Waters beer order. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I need this, and that. And I'm sure I annoyed the hell out of him because I definitely said the things that accounts say to me that infuriates me.
Yeah.
Oh, you got anything new in? No, dude. No, we don't. We fucking don't. We won't. When we do, I will let you know.
Yeah.
But what really got me into my current position was there is a website called Beer Advocate, and that's where I used to use to get aggregate scores for all the new beer that we would get in store. And so I would look at that.
And was that something that you chose to do, or was that something that Muddy Waters said, "Hey, do this so you can be a better salesman"?
It was definitely just a me thing. Like, I wanted to be better.
Yeah.
Especially since I'm the only one who knew damn near anything about what we were selling.
And I was going to say, at Muddy Waters, the position that you had, you could have pretty much just like got the beer for the people, went to the register, checked out, and see you later. But, not to blow smoke up your ass, but you did bring an element of curiosity just naturally to the fact that if I'm going to be a salesman and I'm going to be successful at this job, I'm going to try to be a good salesman, which means when somebody comes in and says, hey, man, I like light beers. Like, what do you think? I want to try something new. You're not like, oh, fucking, have you tried Coors Light? Because that one's fine. Like, what?
No, like, go drink a Pilsner. Go drink a Hefeweizen, Like, do you like Blue Moon? Okay, well, then here's, like, the actually decent part. I was such a dickhead. I'm not like looking back at it. I mean, I was like a used car salesman, dude. Like, I knew my market, and so I would use just the most dumb, underhanded sales tactics. I'm like, if you buy this beer, you're supporting a small, independent, American-owned business, and every single one of those rednecks were like, well, hell yeah, fucking. Give me 6 of them. I'm like, all right, here we go. Hell, this tastes better than Bud Light. Well, that's true. Yep. Keep buying it.
Yeah. Well, but it's both like learning and being curious, but also you having a little bit of that extra charisma.
Yeah. I guess. But it helped me out as well. But what I was saying with not Untapped, but Beer Advocate is I was, I would comment on, forums and I would, talk about different beers. And then one day I said something about a certain beer and someone replied to me and they're like, oh shit, you're from Chattanooga? I was like, no, I'm from Etowah. He's like, oh, well, that's the Chattanooga area. you should join this Facebook group where we trade beer. Like, that way, you can get stuff from other places where other people have gone. And it's just, a good community. I was like, okay, cool. So I joined this Facebook group. Like, it was like a Chattanooga Let's Chat beer trading. And then one day, my current boss posted on that page, like, hey, Lippman Brothers is looking for a merchandiser. Let me know if you're interested in, like, coming on. And I was like, I've got to. And I sent a, request, and I sent my resume. I got interviewed, and Kyle, my salesman at the time, co-signed me for the job. And he's like,
nice.
Also, I hate this fucking route. Cole lives in Athens. Let him have it. And so then I started working as like a hybrid merchandiser and salesman, and that's how I got into Lippman. And where I am now, it's just progression, just kind of climbing that social ladder.
So, I mean, it is an element of being in the right place at the right time. Like,
absolutely.
With like your current boss saying, I don't like that route. I mean, those little things kind of nudge you in that direction.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's not like there isn't some momentum to it, because you were passionate about what you were doing. You found it interesting. I mean,
Still am, for sure.
Beer and beer knowledge is like, it really is a hobbyist thing. Like, if you are truly passionate about it, there is so fucking much to it, that you can learn and absorb and try to understand and be able to disseminate to people that you're selling to. Yeah. So, like, just the fact that you were passionate about it is what made you give a shit about Googling, made you end up on those forums, end up in that Facebook group,
And even with that, before I started working with Lippman, or before I even had the interview with Lippman, I had interviews with Creature Comforts out of Athens, Georgia. I was gonna move to like North Atlanta to be like their sales rep for that area. But
call you the North Atlanta Santa.
Oh, I wanted to be the North Atlanta status so bad, baby. But it wasn't in the cards. They had someone who actually lived in Georgia at the time, so what are you gonna do?
Yeah, but I mean, you stuck to it, because applying for multiple jobs and getting denied for most of them can be super fucking discouraging.
It can be, but like at the same time, I had like a cake job. I had a nice apartment in Athens. I wasn't mad worried about it. I was also in a very different like social life situation at that point in time, so I wasn't really worried about anything. It was just kind of like summer of bliss for me.
Yeah. Well, I was looking earlier when you were talking. I've got to point out, like, it's crazy to me that Muddy Waters started in Etowah and grew from there. Because to give people a marker, Knoxville, Tennessee, which most people probably know where that is, 186,000 people live there. Yep. Athens, Tennessee, where we're from, 13,000 and a half or so people live there. Etowah, where this place started, moved to Athens, and has really became like, I don't know, about a handful. 3,468.
Yeah.
Tiny. It's an old railroad town that the interstate really fucked up. They've been trying to build around that train track and being right at the edge of the Smokies and all foothills, that stuff. Yeah, the foothills. But, I mean, that was a small place.
Yeah.
That's away from Athens. It still is, for them to put pretty much what has become the best and the most solid, beer market, liquor store, whatever you want to call it,
package store
in the area. Yeah.
And they've expanded. I mean, you've got Athens, you've got Etowah, you've got Sweetwater now. I mean, I don't know where it stops for them, but that's my humble beginnings with alcohol sales.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of? And what is your position now with Lippman?
So I'm the on-premise salesman for the Chattanooga team. So I only deal with bars, restaurants, clubs, whatever. I don't deal with liquor stores. I just sell to places where you go to drink. I got that because of my spirits knowledge and because of my beer knowledge.
Gotcha. Yeah. Wait, and how long from the time that you, let's say, when you started at Muddy Waters, how many years has it been that took you to get to that place that having all that knowledge got you that position?
To this position?
Yeah, we'll say the start of that position.
About 4.5 years.
4.5 years of just
I've been
building up knowledge.
I've been doing this one now officially for about half a year.
And you'd say about 4.5 years ago is when you started at Muddy Waters?
Yeah, about 4.5 to, I guess, 6. So, yeah, 4.5 to 5 years. Yeah. Gotcha. It's been worth it. It's been worth it. I mean, like, this industry it was made for me. Like, I love every moment. I love every bit of it. You know, like, getting to go to, you know, before, in the days before COVID, getting to go to festivals and, you know, share good like drinks and food with other people and good wine, and like getting to go to interesting places and meet interesting people. Like, some of my best friends I've met thanks to this industry, like at least like 2 of them in my next wedding, like right next to me. Yeah. Absolutely.
You went into alcohol at Muddy Waters. You eventually get hired by Lipman Brothers.
Yep.
When you got hired by Lipman Brothers, is that what finally pulled you out of Athens, or was it a little bit later in your career there?
No, it wasn't what pulled me out of Athens. I actually commuted for about 6 months when I first started with Lipman Brothers. I was commuting from Athens to Chattanooga because I was merchandising. And so merchandising, for those who aren't aware, is just, so if you go into a grocery store and you're like, oh, you know, I want to get like, you know, some beer or whatever, I was the guy that put that on the shelf for you. I don't know if it's the same way in other states, but in Tennessee, at least, grocery stores do not touch alcohol. Like, your employees will not touch alcohol. So they have guys like myself at the time who would go in and put all that alcohol up, make sure it's stocked up, make sure you're good. And it's just because of like the blue laws in Tennessee, which are the absolute worst. But that's what I did. So I did that for about 6 months. It wasn't until a couple things had happened that got me out of Athens, but I was just commuting from Athens to Chattanooga. I finally made the leap about 6 months into me living in Athens, or me working for Muddy Waters to leave. Not Muddy Waters, Lipman Brothers. Jesus Christ, I am all over the place today. Sorry, man.
You're good, dude. So, another thing that was kind of a pivotal moment for you was moving away.
Yeah.
So you've already had this new career in the alcohol field that I'm sure even at that point you could see like, this is something I want to do long term. You were pretty committed at that point.
Yeah. Very.
And then to see some doors opening and for you to make the decision to move, how would you say that then steered you again in a new direction?
What, moving?
Yeah, to move and to end up to change your entire experience to like Chattanooga.
Well, moving to Chattanooga was probably the best thing I've done in a very, very long time. It was necessitated, I guess, both from work and then also just to get away from Athens. Without getting into the hard stuff, in 1 week, in a single week, I was divorced, and then I lost my best friend in the entire world, like my brother, in the same week. And I lived through that in Athens for a couple months. I was using a couple people, old friends in Chattanooga, for support for a lot of that. I was using a lot of this as well, unfortunately, for a lot of that support. But that's what truly drove me to Chattanooga, honestly. Yeah.
So, do you think that going to Chattanooga and having that sudden change in scenery and people and experience and things to do kind of helped you to move forward and move beyond?
Yes and no. I think the move to Chattanooga distracted me enough, and it allowed me to kind of run away from all of it. I didn't have to see the same people all the time. I didn't have to have a constant reminder of the past. I was with people who truly cared and truly loved, and who were, right there by my side constantly. If I had an episode of, depression or whatever, I knew that I was never going to be alone. And that was super helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting the different reasons we leave. You hear a lot like you can't move and run away from your problems. And
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
I was going to say, it seems like that in your case was what you found to be true. Whereas, like, for me, I got to a point where making this hard move to California actually was freeing. And it wasn't necessarily a distraction from those things. It was a letting go of those things and not feeling like I had the pressures of family and friends and expectations and that world that had been built around me constantly influencing me. Yeah. So for me to move, it was like an opening up and a newfound freedom to make my own decisions. But there's going to be a stark difference in the way you do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, moving away from Athens, it wasn't so much that I was, I guess, I mean, in a sense, I was running away from everything. And then moving to Chattanooga was freeing, because it was just like, there's this whole new world for me. I can have so many other opportunities and so many new experiences just living here. And my work became a lot easier. Instead of having one easy day a week, I had 4 easy days a week. And then, of course, the support system that was around me at the time was super, super helpful. I mean, you know who you are. If you're watching this, that core 4 people right after the incident who are always over at Kaiser and Amber's. There are 2 of them, but you know who you are. I really do appreciate it. But no, it just helped me decompress, I guess. Was the move was healthy, I think, because if I had stayed in Athens, I would have just continued to do much of the same that I was doing.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy.
So it was healthy, but maybe what you were hoping for, it wasn't really living up to. Like, did you expect for that move to Chattanooga to do a little bit more for you moving through these feelings and this trauma?
Yeah, in a sense. I knew eventually that I should probably go talk to someone.
Yeah.
And I did, so here's your plug. If you're feeling any kind of way, if you're sad, depressed, anxious, whatever, please either A, reach out to a friend, a family member, but the thing that helped me the most was therapy.
Yeah.
Like, go get a therapist. It sucks that mental health is not as prioritized in America as it is in other countries.
And that it's so stigmatized here.
And it's very stigmatized, and it's not seen as it's seen as kind of like an elective like health option. Like, we go to a doctor to get physicals, checkups on like our basic like physical health. We go to a dentist to make sure our teeth are good. We go to an optometrist to make sure our eyes are good. Go to a therapist to make sure this guy is good. Because a lot of times, even if you don't think that anything's wrong, it's not a bad thing. My therapist helped me a lot. Really, really helped me a lot. He helped me through a lot of different things. So,
Yeah, and trust me, this podcast is not big enough to have BetterHelp as a sponsor. This is legitimately coming from both of us. I've talked about it probably on every episode. You know,
go to therapy. Go to therapy. It's good.
I have a background in social work. You know, I went to school to be a certain level of therapist, and the first thing they tell therapists is, you need to go to therapy because you got to take care of your shit.
Yeah.
I got to keep hitting this thing. You got to take care of your shit. I'm getting animated before you can help people take care of their shit. And once you have experienced counseling, you're like, you really do come out of it thinking, holy shit, everybody needs to do this, because we worked through the shit that I came in with. But that was all interconnected, and the way I was handling it and the way I was coping with it is all interconnected to stuff I didn't even know that I needed to work through.
That's the thing. It's just like I think in the South especially, and I feel like this is a through line through your entire podcast as well so far.
It has been so far,
Therapy and mental illness is stigmatized pretty heavy. I'm someone who lives with depression and anxiety. And that's cool. It's, something that you work through, you constantly work at it. But I think in the South, it's more like, you need to go talk to a family member, someone that that can help you through it. Or like, you need to go talk to a member of your church. I heard, that a lot growing up, an older member of the church, or like your pastor, like talk to them and see if they can't help you get through this tough time. Like, by the grace of God, you will find that your way. And that works for some people. And if it works for those people, then I'm truthfully really glad. But, for me, and I think for a lot of people in our generation, especially in the South of our persuasion, which I don't think it's any, I'm not bursting any big rumor bubbles that I'm very left, you're very left, we're both very progressive people. Go talk to that doesn't work. Just go. You need an outside source. You need like someone who A, doesn't know you, B, doesn't really honestly care for you.
Absolutely.
They're doing their job. They're being as objective as possible. They're not trying to hurt your feelings, but they won't sugarcoat shit for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of it as like, if you're like walking down a road, I kind of imagine like a platformer game. You're going and all you can do is walk forward, and you keep falling down into these holes. Yeah. You can call on family and friends, people that love you, your church, people that have connections to you and care about you, and they're always going to be there to pull you up out of those holes. They're going to throw a rope down, they're going to uplift you, they're going to tell you that you're good enough, and all that stuff is important. But if you go to a therapist, then they're going to say, okay, we're going to get you to a point where you can move forward, but we need to talk about why you have holes in your path.
Yeah, we got to figure out a way to like patch those holes, or at least find a way for you to build a bridge across them.
And the thing is those holes are in your path because it's your path, and something about you and your way of handling things has created those holes. Yeah. And the people that love you, number one, they just don't have the experience or the education or the knowledge to understand why there's a hole in your path. And also, if they did, they probably care too much about you to say, hey, Grayson, the way that you are handling this, the way that you're coping with this is not healthy.
Not good.
And it's the exact reason why you keep falling into this hole. It's on you, and that's okay. But we need to work to solve that. The people that you love oftentimes love you too much to tell you the hard stuff, whereas the objective counselor that knows their shit will say, look, this is a you thing. You're the common denominator, and that's okay. Let's work to fix it so that you can live your life going forward.
Let's figure it out. Yeah, it was super nice. But yeah, that's honestly. And then once I'd gone through therapy, I mean, I'm already here, so I'm just gonna keep living here, and it's been great. Just being a visitor back home, and this. It's kind of nice. It's really kind of nice, just not always having to be in Athens.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, I wish that I had gone to school, just had some experience for a long period of time living outside of Athens just to
Same.
be able to say that I did that and kind of have been able to make this decision or a decision similar earlier in life. But I think that everybody should do that and should spend some time away.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to take it back again, specifically in the South, because the South is very community focused, family focused, and very traditional. And you really need to experience life away from that to determine if you want to come back to it or if you want to continue to exist outside of it.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the South and its parts of its culture and tradition.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I'm a proud Southerner. I'd say proud Southerner. I'm a proud Appalachian. I prefer that way more than a Southerner. I mean, I am a Southerner, but I mean, at least in East Tennessee and like just across that line, there's more, I think, of a draw to being part of Appalachia than there is to being a part of the South. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who do just, kind of, tie their wagon to the, we're Southern and we're proud and God damn it, if you don't like it, well then you can, but if you don't like it, leave, like that kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
And that's not what the South is to me. And unfortunately, those people have kind of bastardized our image. And that sucks. That sucks. We're not all a bunch of damn yokel, moonshiners who fuck our sisters and cousins and who will, stomp on your rights for an AR-15.
Yeah.
And that sucks. It's a constant perception battle. But there's a lot of people who are like that here in the South, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And but there are those kind of nice pockets. I don't know. I'm gonna eventually. I don't care. I've already the alt-right's already tried to cancel me once.
Can't cancel Cole Duncan.
You can't do it. I've tried multiple times.
You've tried.
But you find those pockets in the South, like Chattanooga, like Knoxville, like Nashville, like Memphis, at least in Tennessee, like Atlanta, Asheville. Those pockets in the South where I think honest and true southernness exists. That kind of communal love, like that communal, like, hey, we want to take care of you. Moving to Chattanooga really helped with that. Like, I knew that it didn't matter really where I went here in this town. I was going to be treated. I was just going to be treated well. And also, no one knew me. No one knew my story. No one knew my past. And so that anonymity for the time being was really nice. I don't have that anymore. But when
the
I
anonymity
was going
nice.
through,
It kind of gives you permission to be whoever you want to be. Just be. Yeah.
Like what? Like I don't. Like I said, I don't have that anonymity now. But when I was going through my gauntlet, that anonymity was really, really nice. I could just walk into a bar or a restaurant or anywhere and no one knew who I was. No one knew my struggle, and I was just treated completely normal.
Yeah.
And in a Southern way, hun, you want anything else? You need anything else, sweetheart? Like that kind of shit. Loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, politics in these times is very divided, but it has become more about urban versus rural. Like anytime you go to a larger urban place, you're going to find people that are going to lean more to the left. The overall population is going to look a little bit more blue. And it's interesting that to you that feels like it more closely aligns with the Southern values. Because I would agree, when you go to a place like that, people are more focused on uplifting others and being supportive and understanding that you're all a part of this thing, and it's not, this is all my shit and you all can fuck off and I don't care what happens to you.
Yeah.
There's
I think that's how it's always supposed to be. It's always been that way. I mean, like, you look at any, like, there's a certain dichotomy about the South where it's like the South is sometimes kind but not nice, if that makes sense.
A little brash, yeah.
Or we might. It's just like we're at our core. The South is. I want to believe that the South is kind and nurturing. Like whether it comes from the food or the music or the way that you are treated when you come into a building or like a business or wherever, I feel like inherently the South wants to be kind.
Yeah.
That is like the standard Southern.
Yeah. And I mean, Southern hospitality is a real thing. The South wants to be welcoming in a way.
Right. Unfortunately, we do have, and I'm not going to grandstand here and be like, oh, the South is great and we get a bad name. No, we've done a lot of really shitty stuff. We have done a lot of really shitty stuff. And I don't think that it's my place to talk about that shitty stuff.
Yeah. Well, the South has always had a way of otherizing people, you know,
Yes.
and maybe it has something to do with being so traditional and so interconnected that if you're a part of it, then you're
you're immediately accepted. You're part of it. Like if
but
you
if
hear
you're
my
not,
accent or your accent, like, oh, well, that he's good. Come on in.
Exactly.
And then there are other things that are exclusionary. I mean, the South has a terrible history of racism, homophobia, transphobia. Like, you name a phobia, we probably helped make it bigger.
Yeah. But it's interesting, you know, David and I talked about how there's kind of like this veil or this film over it that, you know, the ways of Southern hospitality can kind of mask that.
Yeah.
So it's not outright homophobic, racist, transphobic, but
well, because it's that whole like, well, I love them, I just don't agree with them.
yeah,
It's that argument. It's like, well, no one's asking you to agree. We are asking you to accept and love, like you have preached for God knows how long.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. But like there are pockets like that in the South, and once again, I don't mind getting canceled. You know, like, oh, this fucking little liberal. I've been called a cuck God knows how many times at this point. Like, look at this little liberal cuck like asking for safe spaces. Yeah, man, like they're nice. Safe spaces are fucking great. I love it in my little safe space in Chattanooga. It's fantastic.
Well, you know, I'm gonna get on a tangent here for a minute because this has
Do it.
become much more. I've heard this repeated, both on the national news and you know from people that talk about the news and stuff. That we get called snowflakes and people that need safe spaces, yet the people on the other side are the ones that are always shitting their pants over anything that happens, and the ones that are needing the clock turned back to a better time. Yeah. Like like you all are just as bad about saying.
I'm totally fine with being where I am in history and in time. I know, and that's the thing is like that I'm comfortable with being remembered as I am.
Yeah.
What that dude is saying when he's like, oh, I don't think Black Lives Matter, or like Black Lives Matter is like a Marxist extremist group, or like trans people, I don't understand them and I don't like it, and the gays shouldn't get married. Like that all the bullshit is like they're afraid. They're afraid of change. They're afraid of progress. That's how we move on as a people.
Yeah.
Like it's dumb. Hi, welcome to White Guy Talks About stuff that he's
welcome
not
to
involved
Two White
with.
Guys Talk About.
Yeah.
I am in fact white.
Believe it or not, I mean, like,
I know Cole's got a golden glow.
I've got
on him
really
right
good lighting, but I'm about as pale.
I
as
have
like
really
a piece of
harsh
printer
medical
paper.
lighting, so I feel like my whiteness is really showing up
It's
on
just showing
camera. But yeah,
But no,
I
it's
mean,
just it's a fear thing. It's a fear thing of being not in power or not having, you know, the way things have been for the past God knows how many millennia at this point.
yeah. I've realized so much and continue to realize how much fear controls us.
Yes.
You know, from on a personal level, to a larger level, like on a political level, you know, everything is based on fear or some level of your reaction to fear. And, you know, conservatives fear change, they fear the unknown. Progressives fear the thought of not moving forward, and they fear for those people that it's going to hurt the most. You know, my family feared for me moving to California and what could happen, and I feared for letting my independence pass me by and not doing it. Like, it controls our every being.
I was you hit it right on the head there when you said the fear of the unknown, because it's the fear of the unknown, the fear of the other that drives everything, especially in the South. It always has drove like policy and whatever. It's fear of the unknown. It's fear of the other. And it's sad that it's taking us this long to get maybe even slightly up to it, not even past it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and it's so interesting how our heritage impacts that too. I mean, you might know more than I do as a history major. I've been reading this book, American Nations. I think I've mentioned it once or twice, but they talk about how the people that immigrated to the areas of the United States have still had that the values that they brought still have an impact on the people that live there. And a lot of Scotch and Irish people that were trying to escape, you know, slavery or whatever, or that they were trying to be enslaved and have their rights taken away from them, they immigrated to Appalachia, to North Carolina and East Tennessee area, and a lot of those values of this is mine and you're not going to take it away from me still exist in those areas.
Yeah, and it's sad. It's really sad when it comes to that. Like, both of like our common professor, Dr. Derwood Dunn, may he rest in peace, always had a joke that he would always say, tell with my dad, which was, if you ever want to track the trail or the path of the Scots-Irish in America, just follow the trash. And as a Scots-Irish, that's hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Because he's exactly right. We came to this country that wasn't ours so long ago to escape that kind of, not bondage, but pressure from, you know, the crown, or, you know, the economic depression that was going on in Europe during, you know, these mass immigrations to the Americas. And there was still a large part of Scots-Irish that held on to those old traditions. I mean, like, the term, like, redneck and hillbilly have been bastardized. There's a really awesome podcast that I think you should listen to, and everyone should listen to, called Dolly Parton's America. While it talks about Dolly Parton a whole lot, there's one episode in particular, I think I talked to Liv or David about it. I can't remember who. I know it was in our group, talking about, I know I talked to my mom about it. Shout out to St. Joyce. Talking about Appalachia and talking about basically the tribalism that exists in Appalachia. Like, redneck wasn't a term of, it wasn't an insult / term of endearment. Like, rednecks were miners in West Virginia that, you know, tied red neckerchiefs around their, like, necks to symbolize, you know, they're part of this giant union of mainly Scots-Irish workers who were then bombed by the U.S. government.
Yeah.
Hillbillies were East Tennessee, like, mountain folk, you know, people who live in the mountains, who live in the hills, like where I do and where you used to, who were abolitionists. It was still a derogatory term then. It just sucks that for a lot of Appalachia and Southern culture, we have forgotten our history. Yeah. And it's the same people who are screaming, like, you know, oh, you know, those who forget our history are doomed to repeat it by, talking about, like, taking down statues of, General Lee or any of those other, traitorous fucks.
Yeah.
That are screaming that when they've already forgot where our people came from.
Yeah.
We were a bunch of poor Irish Celtic people who got kicked around and were spat on until they got to a place where no one wanted to live because you couldn't grow a goddamn thing out here.
Yeah.
I mean, once again, white guy on a soapbox talking about how his people were oppressed, but it's just lame that there can't be any semblance drawn with these people.
Yeah.
For any kind of change or meaningful change.
Well, and I think that, bringing that full circle, it shows you how much humans fear the unknown, how hesitant they are to change, and the fact that history repeats itself is just further proof that humans don't like change. And I mean, it makes sense from a psychological standpoint. It's a survival tactic.
Change is scary.
It's very scary. If I know what's going to happen, if I do A or B, it doesn't matter how good the thought of C sounds. I don't know what's going to happen. And from a survival standpoint, and a lot of people hold that really deep down, I don't want to change and see because that is the unknown.
Yeah.
So it's very... Yeah, I know. We really took off running.
The last thing I remember, we were talking about, like, me selling booze, and then we're talking about, like, the social state of Appalachia. I mean, I'm cool with it, but
yeah, I honestly think that we actually started this conversation, I think, with counseling and being willing to change.
Yeah, we're talking about therapy. Yeah.
So
go to therapy.
Go to therapy.
It works.
The whole country. I'm not even going to pin this one on the South. Everybody in the country. Go to therapy because I've met some people that are really pretentious and asshole-ish in California. They need to go to therapy. No, far beyond what you could ever imagine, Cole.
Oh, dude, you haven't seen me in over a year now, so it's gotten worse.
That. Well, let's step over into some of the hard stuff. We touched on it before.
Man.
There's two other things on here, and I will let you talk about, whichever one you feel like you want to touch on first, because I know that they both changed you and continued to form you into who you are now. And like you said earlier, they were taking place at a similar time, right at the same point, pretty much in your life. So.
Okay. I guess I'll just go in order. Okay. If that's cool. I mean, I feel like that's probably chronological. The fun fact about the first one is that it's my favorite thing to pull on reps when I have work withs who complain about their ex-wives. Oh my god, it's so fun. Because, they'll be like, oh yeah, da-da-da-da-da, my ex-wife did da-da-da-da. I'm like, dude, I mean, I feel like my ex-wife da-da-da-da-da-da. And they're like, how old are you? I'm like, oh, I'm 28. Like, you have an ex-wife? I'm like, yeah, dude, like, a couple years ago, dude. But yeah, no, I mean, for, I guess, reference, I was in a relationship with a woman. I'm, I guess, big enough of a man to not out her.
Not use your name, yeah. You can come up with a fake name for her if you need to.
No, it's all good. 5 years. And then, I popped the question, got a yes, was married. Grayson was one of my groomsmen.
It's a good wedding.
Great wedding. I mean, a lot of crazy shit happened.
Yeah,
I got told by my father-in-law at the time that when I fucked up, he was gonna beat my fucking ass. That is still yet to happen. So this is an open invitation.
I don't know if that or someone who I also won't out peeing in the corner of the groomsmen.
Oh wait, allow me. Luke, stop pissing. Stop pissing.
Luke, you're
at
not
your
a
friends'
dog.
weddings.
I don't
You're not a
care how
dog.
much you want to be.
I allowed him. I don't care. But we were married. Beautiful, beautiful ceremony. Shout out to Dr. Samuel Roberts for officiating.
Shout out to Dr. Roberts.
He was the
Wonderful
best ally I had in that wedding. Have I told you that story? Like
you need to tell it again.
At the altar.
Yeah, but you need to tell the people.
Okay, so the rehearsal dinner. For full disclosure, obviously my ex-father-in-law hated me. I can't tell why.
Fucking hippie.
My ex-father-in-law hated me for a myriad of reasons, and I legitimately don't know. But he did, and that's fine. That's his opinion. It's wrong, but that's okay. So at the rehearsal dinner, you know, you have the handoff, right? You know, the father walking the daughter down the aisle, and who gives this woman to be with this man, her mother and I, that kind of thing. This chotch decides to be like, I don't know, I guess us. Just one little extra jab at your boy. And so Dr. Roberts is like, very funny, but, you know, either I do or her mother and I, or something like that, right? Okay, cool. And so we did it. Actual day of the wedding, we do the whole thing. Dr. Roberts, who gives this woman to be with this man, her mother and I, and then so imperceptibly under his breath to him and to me goes, yeah, that's right. I was like, yes, Sammy, my man. So that happened. The wedding was beautiful. My ex-wife at the time was like sick, so we didn't, pop champagne for the toast. We had some ginger ale. It was a good wedding. It was a fun wedding, at least for me. And
fun wedding
for
me.
I know you guys did a lot to make it that way, and I appreciate that. But I was married for a month. I was married for about a month, and then I was separated. My wife at the time, one evening, just left, and that did a number on your boy. And I was separated for 10 months.
Yeah, and I think you kept that
finally...
pretty close to you for a little while too, because we were playing D&D, and I don't think we really knew what going on, but we could see that you were going through something. But you did keep it pretty close to you for a while.
I did. I kept it under wraps. I mean, it's once again Southern culture,
Yeah.
Oh, there's St. Joyce calling me. I'll call her back. I did. I kept it under wraps for what? I guess 3-4 months. I didn't tell anyone that she had left. It was a lot, man. It's a lot. With not to know why your marriage falls apart.
Yeah.
With no literally the only explanation I got was, I don't want to do this anymore. And then that's it. And then that lasted for 10 months before, I guess it would have been 9 months or 8 months when I finally said, okay, I'm done. And then I personally filed for divorce, like suit of divorce.
Jeez.
It takes, I think, 60 days in the state of Tennessee for a divorce to go through, because once again, Tennessee is all about traditional bullshit.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, they'll work it out. This is just like a rom-com. We didn't.
Fun fact.
But no, we didn't. And one of the biggest regrets of my life, I think, it was a week before the divorce was finalized. I was at my family reunion, and Brooke had texted me. Me and Brooke were texting like nonstop, obviously. And he was like, like I'll be there. I'll be there at the courthouse. Like when it happens, I will be there. And I had told him, I guess it was like 2 weeks before when this happened. And I was like, no, I think I want to just do this alone. I don't want to be around anyone. I don't want anything happening around me. I just want to the papers are signed. I just want to go in, have my lawyer do his thing, let me sign a paper and get the fuck out of here just so I can go probably an open door. And just forget about this entire day. Because it was a shitty day. We had just moved my nan into the nursing home. Mm-hmm. It was not a good day. But I told him that, and then a week later I was like, you know what, man, I actually think I want my brother there with me. And then, about 3 days before my divorce was finalized, my brother committed suicide. And I unfortunately was the one who found him. And that was heavy. That was really heavy. That changed my life in a big way.
I don't know if heavy can even be the word, It's
I don't think it's the word either. It's
indescribable.
I don't think I have the words to describe it. It changed me. It changed a lot about me in that moment. I'm sorry. I should have thrown up a trigger warning before I started talking about that for anyone who has dealt with suicide in the past. I won't talk about the nitty gritty. I was heavily involved in it. It was just a lot. That day was just a lot. It's just a lot of sounds that you hear that you won't unhear. It's a lot of sights. It was a lot of sights that you will see that you won't unsee. Then it's a lot of conversations that you will have that you'll never forget.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was a pretty pivotal week for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to have that happen, obviously, but then to have to 3 days later sign your divorce papers. I mean,
what's interesting about that was the main investigator from that I had to talk to, Brooke's mom at the time, obviously, and understandably was pretty catatonic.
Yeah.
She couldn't really talk, so they talked to the next person who was there, me, about what happened. And I'm like, I knew that he was having a hard time. I work in Chattanooga. I told him that I'd be over here around this time, and I found him, and so I had to talk to this guy. That guy was actually at my divorce hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Like he showed up in the gallery. A couple, one of the officers, I won't out him, who responded was was a guy that used to come into the store, not regularly, but regular enough that I had a rapport with him and I knew him, and he was a really, really nice guy. he was the first person I talked to after, because the cops showed up, and he was there, and I was just like, and he asked me, he's like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "It's Brooke." And I was escorted out of the house. It was a lot. The worst thing about it is, the worst thing about it, aside from, losing your brother, losing your best friend, is the feeling of, like, hopelessness. Of just trivial attempts. It's not fun. It's really not fun. Just trying to do anything and then nothing working.
You mean in relation to where he was, what he was going through, trivial attempts that he had made previously?
Trivial attempts made before, and then when I mean trivial before, I mean like making sure he was okay. But I guess what I meant was in the moment. Revival.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Yeah. That was the hardest part. That part was hard. Talking to his dad was hard. Because I had to tell I had to tell his father, who I consider, a second dad, that his son was dead.
Yeah.
And then I had to, I couldn't say anything else besides I'm sorry. I didn't know what else to do, and didn't know what else to say. But that was a big pivotal point. Was losing Brooke.
Yeah. And I mean, his dad wasn't the only person that you called. I got a phone call. I remember you calling me, and I remember I wasn't as close to Brooke as you were. Obviously, he was your brother.
Yeah.
Still is your brother.
Yeah.
And I remember my first thought was, "Are you okay?" Because
and I appreciated that. Those phone calls were hard, but they were easier to make. I'll tell you that.
Than his dad.
Just telling you all, because I knew there was a couple people who had called me and were like, we'd been worried for a minute, and then making those phone calls was hard, but it was, you got to do it. It was just like a weird sense of like I had to let everyone know. I had to let immediately.
Yeah.
But that was a rough moment. That's honestly probably what kicked a lot of things off for me. So that's once again, go to therapy. It's useful.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I just, I want to take a minute to get a little social worky on you and thank you, because you deserve to be thanked.
No.
I think that you do, for being willing to be vulnerable enough on this podcast to talk about it. And I know you've been through a lot. You've been to counseling, and before you were going to counseling, you were carrying, you know, I don't want to say that burden, but you were carrying the weight of that situation around with you everywhere that you went, along with the divorce. But, you know, I'm sure that for you, once that happened, that was much heavier than the divorce was, although they were both
100%.
affecting you.
I mean, that's. I mean, I don't have a memory before knowing Brooke. I mean,
Yeah.
that guy was my brother. He still is. You know, it's. I mean, yeah. I mean, the divorce was bad, but I'm much better off now. You know, I'm happy. I'm doing great. The loss of Brooke, though, I mean, that was a lot. It changed everything. I mean, I had a brother who was, you know, I knew no matter what, I had always had that option of, like, I know no matter what happens, it does not matter. It doesn't matter how terrible I've been, how good I've been, how bad I've fucked things up, how great I have done. I've got one person in my corner that can always be like, huh? Help me out here? Or like, what do you think about this? And then having that just in an afternoon, on a Tuesday afternoon, having that just stop.
Yeah.
Hard stop. Not, you know, your friends and you slowly move away. Like, Brooke and I were, like, tight right up until the very end. Like, that's my brother. And having those two events coincide within the same week was not great. And it did put me into a pretty deep depression. I mean, yeah.
What were you feeling at that time? You know, what were your
hopelessness, malaise, ennui, and then to cope with it, just a whole lot of drinking.
Yeah.
Just so I didn't have to think, didn't have to feel those problems. I buried myself in work. Because I also felt in some way that it was my job to make sure everyone else was okay. A lot of people, at first, it hit them much harder. And I worried about them. I won't say any names. So I kind of poured myself into making sure that they were okay. Because I felt like that's what Brooke would have wanted me to do.
Yeah.
Was take care of them. And I did my best. I'm sure I fucked up a lot along the way.
I mean, just stepping up and being there.
That's as much as I could do. And I still try and do that. I feel like that's probably what I'm supposed to do, is just to try and make sure that everyone is as okay as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that at first, taking care of everyone and kind of making sure they were okay was a way to avoid those feelings that you were struggling with?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My therapist pointed that out to me as well. You know, it's he described it as a firefighter's complex. You know, like, you want to make, like, regardless of the damage that you could incur, you would rather do that just to make sure everyone else is okay, so you feel better about yourself or your current position. And that's he's 100% right about that. It was definitely that. It was definitely me just wanting to make sure that everyone was okay, and then by making sure that they're all right, I didn't have to process my own feelings.
Yeah.
And I eventually did. I still am. I think it's an ongoing process.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
So what finally convinced you to take the step and go to counseling?
Probably when it would have been about, I want to say, 5 to 6 months after the incident, when I noticed that it was, my mental state was bleeding into my social life and to my work life. I was starting to have a lot of moments where I was having anxiety attacks, or, like, legitimately severe bouts of depression that manifested in, heavy binge drinking, or, inferiority complexes, or into kind of reckless actions. I was using my vice a lot to cope with a lot of this. And, of course that's not healthy. It never is healthy. But I didn't know what to do. And you were a big help with all that. 'Cause, I remember one session when I was still driving from Chattanooga back to Athens on Wednesday nights. You had suggested going to therapy, because I remember I had an episode one night at 1609, and you were like, man, like, maybe think about it. Like, it's not a bad thing. And I kept on thinking about it, and I saw my relationship and my social life and my own mental state deteriorating. And, part of me was like, I don't fucking care. Just very nihilistic.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still consider myself, without to the extent of sounding like an edgelord, like an absurdist. None of this really matters. What matters is what I give meaning to it. And that helped a lot. But it was me kind of finally taking an honest look at my life and my experiences and being like, you're fucked up, dude. Like, you need to figure some things out. And I'm still, I think that mental health is a constant thing. It's an ongoing thing. But I think it was then that I decided, I need to be proactive in my own mental health. I need to work on dealing with past traumas, whether that be, past family sicknesses, or, crises that had happened back when I was in high school, or, my imposter syndrome, where, I'm the son of a very, very brilliant parents of just two amazingly smart people who are loved and revered by the community. And then there's me. Then, you know, the divorce, without giving a lot away. You know, I found out a lot of things that I didn't know after my divorce, and that hurt me a lot. I'm not, you know, trying to be like the, oh, poor little me, like, give me sympathy here, but, you know, like, those experiences hurt me. They hurt me a lot, and they affected me in a very certain way. And then Brooke passing away, that broke me, you know. And I had to find a way to deal with it without absolutely destroying myself, or, you know, whatever he says as he's drinking currently.
You can drink it. You can healthily drink and not be a vice.
Yeah. But I think that was the moment when I noticed, I knew that it was affecting. I no longer felt like me. I no longer felt like Cole. I felt empty. I felt like an empty husk. Just kind of doing what I needed to do to get through the day or get through the week. I'm a very firm believer of, and it's no pun intended, we all wear a mask.
Absolutely.
Unless you're in Athens, Tennessee, in which case, wear your fucking mask. We all wear a mask to, you know, disguise pain or disguise grief or troubles or whatever.
Usually multiple masks.
Yeah, it's only when, you know, we're with people that we love and we trust, who we know will be kind of a lighthouse that we can, you know, set our courses to. Mm-hmm. For me, you know, that was people like you and Liv and Nathan and Wes and David Sams and Kyle. Not so much Ty, but you know what? He's there and I love him. And Hester and Cody and Kaiser and Amber, and, you know, all these beautiful, beautiful, lovely people. Sam and Zach, especially Sam and Zach, they helped me out a lot. I mean, those are my old co-hosts that I'm still very good friends with, still do, you know, content with today. Those were the only people that I really felt comfortable dropping the facade occasionally from. Yeah. You know, there for 2-3 years, I was miserably depressed. But now, you know, like now I'm fine. I'm good. I'm better. And I thank therapy for that. I thank my friends. I thank you. And the few of you who are watching this that I just mentioned, I thank you for that as well. You all really helped me a lot. It was nice to just, on those like Friday nights, not go to Open Door maybe, and just to roll up to 1609 with like a 12-pack of White Claw and a bunch of people to share it with. And Wilco especially. I missed him on that last one, you know. But being able to drop that mask after therapy and having people who would love you regardless of who you are.
Yeah.
That's what really helped, honestly. Therapy was big to kind of show me who I was and who I could be, maybe, if I worked at it. And like I said, it's an ongoing process, but having that support system that we were both lucky enough to have back home. I mean, y'all honestly truly saved my life. Like, just being my friends and being non-judgmental and loving and caring and empathetic and sympathetic. It was... I can't thank you guys enough.
Well, I want to speak for the whole conglomerate, those who may be listening, and say that, you know, it was absolutely a tragedy when we lost Brooke.
Yeah.
But I think everybody in our friend group was aware that yourself and the group of friends that had been built around Brooke from Pope Street and beyond were going to be going through this and going through this and unfortunately trying to make sense of it for at least a few months with you.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody in what I'll call the 1609 crew,
yeah,
we were concerned for our brother, our guy, you know, and that was you. And we were worried for you, you know, because you had just lost your person, and that was tragic. And I think that we were afraid of you, you know, something happening to you because of that tragedy. And, you know, I don't have the experience that you've had. And I think that the experience you had with all that is something that people fear that they will have to experience. But I have a past of getting in relationships with people who were suicidal and who were going through mental health issues and working through it. And you fear for the day that something actually does happen. And I think that our entire friend group was fearing for you in that moment. And we're trying our best to embrace you and give you a point, give you a place, a safe space, if you will, to have an outlet and to talk and, you know, to get just drunk enough to let it all go and to know that you were doing it in a place where you're going to be taken care of and loved. Because, you know, it was almost like a counseling situation where your counselor is kind of the objective person that doesn't have those ties to your trauma and your tragedy. The 1609 crew, you know, we were a little bit closer to Cole, and our focus was Cole and making sure that he knew he was loved and supported, and that no matter what we had to do, we were going to help you come to the other end of this and try to find some peace with it.
Well,
so
I from the bottom of my heart, I felt it. I felt it, and I appreciate it. I mean, like, wholeheartedly. I really did appreciate it. It was a nice refuge. It still is. I mean, I know it's still there, so I've always appreciated it, and you guys honestly did help me out of a really, really dark time. And I mean, I hope it goes without saying that if something like that ever happens, God forbid it ever does, or, you know, if someone, when that time comes for somebody, when they're in that dark place, because I mean, that's the unfortunate, sad truth and kind of odd beauty about life is that eventually it does come to an end, for all of us.
Yeah.
To know that there's always someone in your corner. There's always someone, you know, on your side. And at 1609, like, that's it. Like, this conglomerate is, it's strong. It's loving. It holds on real strong. It loves real strong, and it doesn't matter who you are or how much of a dickhead you are. That you have that space, that someone is going to be there to talk to you at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I want to take some moments here to speak to people that may be going through some of this same stuff. You know, the first thing that I want to say is something that I have said several times throughout this podcast, and that is the fact that someone may have it worse than you doesn't invalidate your experience.
Yeah.
And that's important for you to know, and I know that you do know that, but that's important for everyone else to know. And
absolutely,
if you have someone in your life that is going through something, that is struggling, that is having thoughts or having experiences, support them and love them, but reach out to other people, build a support system around them.
Surround them with love, man. Surround them with love.
And get people involved.
And listening. That's the main thing. That was always the main thing for me, was just having someone to just cry to.
Yeah.
And just to bitch to. About nothing sometimes. I mean, you listen to me bitch about, like, Umong. I don't mind to air him out on this. I mean, it's like just the small things. Just being able to air that shit out and just be able to, like, have that cathartic release. Just being able to just be like, God, I fucking hate this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just having that area or that place and that group, just to be able to know that you were constantly accepted and constantly loved, and that this group wants you not only to be better, but they know you can be better, and they know you can be stronger and healthier. And I think I'm to the point now where I want to be. You know, I think there's still some more work to do. I think everyone has a little bit more work to do on themselves. But I'm to a point now in my life where I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm doing all right. I still have my struggles, and that's a whole big part thanks to my 1609 crew.
Yeah.
So that back patio gang.
The back patio gang. You know, unwinding trauma is an ongoing process, and I think it's important to understand that unwinding trauma is an ongoing process, but to also be aware that once you start to unwind it, that doesn't mean that it goes away. You know, you never lose the memory with it. You just understand how to handle it and how to move forward with it, because it's never going to go away, because, you know, the pushing down of and the coping is trying to make it go away and working against it. But to be at peace with it is to unwind it and understand it and learn to live with it and move forward.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you have somebody going through a hard time, obviously reach out to someone. If they're suicidal and they're in a dark place, bring professionals in, do everything that you can. But
show them unconditional love. Just hold them close. Like, hold them close and hold them dear, and let them know, make sure they know that they are loved, that they are cared for, that they are valid, that they are more than the sum of their parts, that they are more than their job, that they're more than their relationships, that they're more than, you know, who they think they are, because they're not in that space. Make them know, let them know how much they mean to you, let them know how much they are loved. Hold them close, hold them tight.
Yeah.
And that might be toxic for me to say, you know, like, this is not me saying, like, it's on you to, you know, make sure, but it is on you to let your friends know how much you love them.
Yeah.
Absolutely that.
Yeah. And I mean, I want to speak from the other side of it and say that if you know someone like you, Cole, that's going through that and experiencing that, reach out to them and support them and let them know that their life is bigger than that experience, that their life is bigger than this divorce, that does not mean that they are a failure as a friend, as a husband, as a son, whatever. Lift them up and give them just as much support as you would, you know, the person that's actually really in a dark place. The people that are surrounding with and trying to uplift that person or people that are in that darkest place, they also need love and support, and to be reminded that there is life outside of that all-encompassing experience, and that they have people one layer further on the outside that are willing to stand by them and love them and listen just as hard.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've always appreciated it, buddy. Like, you're the halt in my oats, buddy.
Yes. Yeah, we've kind of already gone through this, but this is an experience that you went through.
Yeah.
Was traumatic, but you have continued working through.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if there is anything, having experienced this and gone to counseling and worked through it, that you want to say to people that may be going through something similar.
Yeah. I guess what I would tell someone who is maybe not going through my exact,
Yeah, of course.
Experiences is there is some good in the world. I know right now it might be hard to find it, and you won't find it for a minute, and that's okay. You're working on yourself, and you've already taken the first big step to try and be better, not only for yourself, but for your loved ones and for your friends, but most importantly, for yourself. I know right now it is hard, and you are hurting, and you're gonna hurt for a minute, and that's okay. And that's okay. It will get better. You will feel a whole lot better if you keep at it. There will still be those dark times. And when those dark times come, you need to call on your friends, call your family, call that person that you know will pick up and will listen to you, and cling to them, because one day they may need you to do the same.
Absolutely.
Everyone fights their own battles. We're all fighting. Every man fights a war that no one else does. You need allies. And hold on to those people as close and as hard as you can. They are your best friends. And it will be okay. It will eventually be okay. It's not going to be okay right now, though. Distractions are great. If they are like mine, please do them in moderation. You don't want to go down a really dark path that they can lead to. But distractions, video games, D&D, cooking. I did D&D and video games. I did a little bit of cooking. I got back into lacrosse really heavy. I was out at Veterans Park at that big ass wall, damn near every day, just hurling a ball at a giant ass wall as hard as I could, working out. Fuck it, frisbee golf, like biking. Yes. I don't know, like find something that you enjoy and pour yourself into it, or find something that you, and this is only for people who are dealing with suicide of a close loved one, find something that you and that person love to do together and do the absolute fuck out of it. Like, do the most of it. My mom, for the longest time, whenever I was like quasi touring and like or when I would be away from her for an extended amount of time, would always tell me, have fun for the both of us. Because she wouldn't be there, but I would be. So I had to have as much fun, or I had to do the most for not only myself, but I had to do more because she wasn't with me. So have fun for the both of you. Do the most for the both of you. I try and do that now in a bunch of different ways for Brooke. Like, I've got all these like tattoos. Brooke had one giant tattoo across his chest, so I'm like catching up. But I'm doing the most for the both of us. I'm playing as many video games as I can. I'm doing as many experiences as I can. I think that both I and he would enjoy. Like, do the most for the both of you. You need to live for that person. And you are loved, and you are cared for, and there is always someone in your corner. You just need to listen to them.
That's
also,
awesome.
Stop doing that one thing you're doing. You know what I'm talking about. Stop doing it. It's different for everyone. But you know the one thing you're doing right now, and you need to stop it. It's okay.
And I'll throw in there, talk to someone about counseling. You don't have to go immediately. Also, you don't have to take yourself there. If you know somebody that's gone through it, if you know somebody close to it, say, dude, what's up with like counseling?
Dude, I'll do you even one better. Just go to a consultation. Just go to a standard first consultation. Because your therapist is not going to immediately sit you down on like one of those fainting chairs and be like, all right, so go and tell me how your relationship with your dad or your mom is. They're not going to do that.
We've came a long way from Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung.
Yeah. Go to a like consultation. Like, answer the questions as honestly as you can. And even if that still doesn't feel good for you, you have written those answers down. You have answered those questions. I truly feel like that helped me a lot. Just like understanding who I was from an objective point of view. Like someone objectively asking me questions and me answering as honestly as possible. Also, if you go to a therapist, don't lie.
You have to be ready to be painfully honest.
Be as honest as possible. Do not lie. Like, don't be the guy that goes like to the doctor and when they go, do you smoke? And then you go, cigarettes? Like, be as painfully honest with your therapist or your like healthcare provider. It will save you so much in the long run.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important for you to be ready for therapy and be ready for that scary change. And to come terrifying. To a point where you say, okay, I have to do something. I'm ready to be open and vulnerable, and I'm ready to answer these hard questions honestly.
Absolutely.
And remember that not every counselor is going to be your counselor.
No.
And that is an important part. This is a relationship with another person that you have to, over several sessions, build rapport with and come to trust and believe that they understand you. And if you're with somebody that, reminds you of your annoying aunt, they can be the best counselor in the world. But for you, if you cannot open up to them, it's time to move on. You're just going to lay into
Aunt Cheryl right there.
Exactly.
Can't stand that woman. Like, you need to get going.
Yeah. And I mean, that can be the hardest thing and one of the best things about counseling, because I think people see counseling as like this experience that you have to do. And it's like a doctor. You just need to get over it because they can fix it. No, counseling is uniquely about you. And you are in control. You are in control.
You are in control. And whatever you say does not leave that room.
Confidentiality.
Unless you choose to let it leave that room.
Absolutely.
Unless you're trying to hurt yourself or someone else.
Exactly.
And then it will leave that room.
Yep.
And once again, if you're trying to hurt yourself, it should leave that room. And just go back a couple minutes. Like, go be with your friends, your family. Like, they love you.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Cole, let's end this conversation with your current life, your current goals. You said that you measure success in your own life by your own perceived quality of life and living your own life.
Yeah.
So it seems like you're headed in that direction. It seems like you're doing some fun stuff and you've got some good goals ahead of you. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. Like I said, I am a vain person. I know that now thanks to therapy. But I also kind of like nice things. It makes me feel better. I understand that that doesn't do the thing for a lot of other people, but it does for me. So like having like these guys, like this makes me feel happy. But
what is that?
They're my sunglasses.
Oh, well, show them off.
Oh,
you can't just don't be a tease.
I'll be a tease. Like what? These old guys?
There they are.
Yeah, I love them. They're amazing.
You not even gonna put them on for us?
I did not even pay. I did not pay full price for them. Thank you, Saks Fifth off of Fifth.
You look at this guy. Oh my God.
Look at this guy.
You look like you jumped out of the 70s. It's beautiful.
That's what I'm going for. But no, like I said in that form, like my perceived lifestyle, like that's how I guess measure success. And that's just me being honest with you. Look, I'm happy, and then I can show off that I'm happy, I guess is what I'm going for. Is that unhealthy and toxic? Maybe a little bit. But I'm very self-aware. No, like my plan for the future is to stay in this industry. I love it so much. I think I would love to be an executive of some kind within my industry. Maybe whether that be like, a spirits counselor or or manager or like one of the main decision makers for, at least the East Tennessee. But who knows? Maybe I, move to the, PNW and grab myself a wine job up in like Seattle or Portland.
Mm-hmm. You recently had a trip up there.
God,
impactful.
I loved every moment of it. Like my little Twin Peaks brain was like, man. Yeah. Diane, it's February 24th, and I'm currently going into Woodinville. They have some really nice Pinot Noir. But yeah, no. The future for me, I think, looks about the same. I know that my girlfriend and I are planning on moving into a new place together in downtown Chattanooga.
It's awesome.
I'm really excited about it. We're both really excited about it. She'll be closer to work. I'll be literally at work in downtown. I've finally done the adult thing of making adult friends that are not from my hometown or not from my high school.
It's a hard thing to do.
I have an awesome group of people with me. So, like shout out to Chris, Becca, Andy, Caroline. We both love you guys. And obviously Chanel. Our little bubble. That's who we went through quarantine with. That's who we're coming out of quarantine with. And we're real happy about it. But no, man, like the future looks bright, honestly, for me. I'm excited to see what it holds. No, I'm doing great. I'm real happy. I think I found, both the job and the place that I need to be. I think I found, a partner who is quite possibly the most supportive person that I could ever have in my corner, and I'm so thankful for her. she's way smarter than me, which is great because it challenges me.
Well, and that's so important to surround yourself with people that challenge you to be better. You know, there's a lot to be said for that.
Absolutely, and she does every day in the best possible way. You know, constantly pushes for me to be better. In whatever I do, we're very, very close to getting her into D&D.
Ooh.
I know. She's played a couple games.
Well, you know me. I'll run the shit out of a D&D game, so you just let me know.
I'm all about it.
I just wish it could be in person.
I want to get back to playing Tybalt so goddamn bad.
Don't tease the people.
I mean,
don't
want
tease
it.
The people.
I want it so fucking bad. Like, I just want to, like, hang out. Me and old Jim here just hanging out. Like, I just want to, like, be a scalable again.
Well, we've had to put some boundaries on that D&D game because I'm in California and everybody's continuing to change and live their life. So it's a little bit more manageable now. Every other week on Saturday evenings for like a total of 5 hours. So
hell, I could probably make that work. I'll just have to talk to her about it. Like, hey, so listen, we can't schedule anything between the hours of this and this on these days.
Well, here's the thing: if she starts playing, then it's like. It's a little couples experience. I can come up. I can give you guys the couples package. I think we could do that.
I just don't know. Like, what would she be like? We'll figure it out. But no, like, it all looks good to me right now. Sunshines and rainbows. In fact, it is sunny in Chattanooga when I thought it was gonna be a bloody torrential downpour.
It's been raining a lot there. It's
Yeah.
It's sunny in California, of course, but...
Of course it is. It's fucking California. My name's Grayson. I moved to a place where it's never under 70 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the weather's more consistently good, but they also have like about 3 more natural disasters that are possible at all times.
That is fair. But y'all don't have like the Teleco tornado, so...
Yeah, exactly.
Y'all will never have a Teleco tornado.
Just earthquakes and now fires.
Yeah, a lot of fire.
Dude, I was playing D&D a couple weeks ago, I guess a couple months ago now, and an earthquake came through and shook the camera and stuff, and everybody was like,
"You good?
Was that an earthquake? Are you okay?" And I'm like, it was. First one I've ever experienced. I'm glad if I died, it would have been on camera for everyone to witness and call someone. But, well, Cole, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. It's been awesome. I loved getting to talk to you. I've loved what you've been doing with this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. I'm really excited to see where it goes. Like,
I'm excited to keep working on it and to, and maybe even to expand and start up some other things that cover different topics. It's been,
man.
Like I said at the beginning, a creative outlet that I didn't know I needed, and one that I think is going to change the path of me as a person and my career because I'm enjoying it so much.
Well, you're doing fucking awesome, dude. I'm really happy for you.
Thank you.
Really proud of you.
And you did a great interview, and I'm going to speak for everybody when I say one more time, thank you so much for your vulnerability and talking about the hard stuff.
Yeah, man. It's if I can help anyone, I'm more than happy to.
Yeah.
So,
well, I miss you. I love you.
Fuck out of you. Get home soon. We've got a couple more months before I see you.
A couple more months. You're gonna see me in June. I'll be in for like 3 weeks. I'll be working, but I'll be in for like 3 weeks.
That's all good. I can figure it out.
Well, all right, man. I'm gonna let you go. We'll get you back into that D&D game soon.
That sounds good to me, man. Love you.
See ya. Love you, man.
All right. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
See ya.